I pulled into my driveway after a long day at the office, only to be met by a pair of self-appointed HOA enforcers demanding I move my car. Little did they know, I was the county sheriff, and I was about to teach them a hard lesson in respecting the law. The sun was setting as I turned onto my quiet suburban street, eager to get home and relax. But as I pulled into the driveway, two strangers in bright yellow vests stepped in front of my car, waving their arms. "Sir, you need to move your vehicle immediately," the taller one shouted. "It's in violation of the HOA parking regulations." I stared at them, bewildered. "Excuse me." "You heard me," the shorter one chimed in, puffing out his chest. "This is a private community and you're breaking the rules." I glanced around, noticing the lack of any HOA or community signage. Something didn't add up. "I'm afraid I don't recognize either of you. Who are you, and by what authority are you enforcing these rules?" The taller one stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. "We're the HOA enforcers, and we're here to make sure this neighborhood stays in line. Now move your car before we have to take further action." I sat back in my seat, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. These clowns had no idea who they were dealing with. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. This is my home, and I'm the county sheriff. So unless you have a badge and a warrant, I suggest you get off my property before I arrest you for trespassing." The two men exchanged a startled glance, the color draining from their faces. "For the county sheriff?" The shorter one stammered. We didn't know." "Well, now you do," I said, my voice laced with authority. "So I'll say this once more. Get off my property, and don't let me catch you harassing my neighbors again." "Understood." They nodded quickly, backpedaling towards the sidewalk. "Ah, yes, sir. Sorry, Sheriff. It won't happen again." I watched as they scurried away, shaking my head in disbelief. The nerve of those two, thinking they could just waltz in and start bossing people around. Well, they had picked the wrong house to target. As I stepped out of my car, I noticed my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, peering out her window. She hurried outside, a concerned look on her face. "Sheriff, is everything all right? I saw those men confronting you." "Everything's fine, Mrs. Peterson," I reassured her. "Just a couple of wannabe HOA enforcers who didn't realize they were messing with the wrong person." She let out a relieved sigh. "Oh, thank goodness. I was worried they might try to cause trouble. Those two have been harassing everyone on the block, pretending to be from the HOA." My brow furrowed. "Well, that's not going to fly in my county. I'll be sure to look into it, and if I catch them pulling this stunt again, they'll be spending the night in my jail cell." Mrs. Peterson smiled gratefully. "I'm glad to hear it, Sheriff. You always look out for us. I don't know what we'd do without you." I returned her smile, feeling a familiar sense of duty wash over me. "That's my job, ma'am. Protecting the community is what I do best." With a nod, I headed inside, already planning my next move. Those fake enforcers had stepped on the wrong toes, and they were about to learn a hard lesson in respecting the law. The next morning, I gathered my team and briefed them on the situation. "We've got a couple of self-proclaimed HOA enforcers harassing the residents of my neighborhood. I want them found and brought in for questioning." My deputy, Sarah, nodded. "On it, Sheriff. We'll comb the area and see if we can track them down." Within an hour, the call came in. "Sheriff, we've got eyes on the suspects. They're at the corner of Maple and Oak, confronting another homeowner." "Copy that. We're on our way." I grabbed my keys and rushed out the door, Sarah close behind. As we pulled up, I could see the two men in their bright yellow vests, gesturing aggressively at a terrified-looking woman. I jumped out of the car, approaching them with purpose. "All right, that's enough," I bellowed, my voice commanding attention. "I told you not to harass my neighbors again." The taller enforcer whirled around, his eyes widening. "Sheriff. We weren't expecting you. Clearly, I said, my tone laced with disdain. Now you're going to come with us down to the station, and we're going to have a little chat about impersonating law enforcement officials. The shorter man tried to protest. But we're just trying to uphold the HOA rules. This woman was parked in a fire lane. I raised a hand, silencing him. That's not your call to make. You two have been terrorizing this community long enough. I turned to the woman. Ma'am, are you all right? She nodded shakily. Yes, Sheriff. Thank you for stepping in. Don't worry, we've got it from here. I gestured to Sarah. Deputy, cuff them and read them their rights. As the enforcers were led away, protesting all the way, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. These clowns had thought they could just waltz in and do as they pleased, but they had clearly underestimated the power of the badge. Back at the station, I sat across from the two men, my arms folded across my chest. All right, let's start with your names. The taller one cleared his throat nervously. I'm Jim, and this is my partner, Bob. Well, Jim and Bob, you've got quite a problem on your hands. Impersonating law enforcement officers is a serious offense, punishable by fines and jail time. But we weren't impersonating anyone. Bob blurted out, we're just trying to keep the neighborhood clean and enforce the HOA rules. I shook my head. Except there is no HOA in this community. You two have been making up your own rules and intimidating the residents. That's not how it works. Jim shifted uncomfortably in his seat. We were just trying to make a difference, Sheriff. The HOA in our old neighborhood was so strict, and we thought we could do a better job here. By harassing people, I scoffed. That's not how you build a strong community. You're supposed to bring people together, not drive them apart. Bob hung his head. We didn't realize we were causing so much trouble. We just wanted to help. Well, you've certainly helped yourselves to a nice little jail cell tonight, I said, standing up. I'm going to give you both a chance to think about your actions, and then we'll see if you're still interested in helping the neighborhood. As I walked out, I couldn't help but shake my head. These two had clearly bitten off more than they could chew. They were about to learn a hard lesson in respecting the law and the community they claimed to serve. The next morning, I arrived at the station to find Bob and Jim sitting in the holding cell, looking considerably more subdued than the day before. I approached the bars, meeting their gaze. Well, gentlemen, have you had time to reflect on your actions? Jim nodded hesitantly. Yes, Sheriff. We realize now that we really messed up. We never meant to cause any real trouble, but I guess we just got carried away, you know. Bob chimed in, his voice laced with remorse. We're really sorry for all the hassle we've caused. We just wanted to make our neighborhood a better place, but we went about it all wrong. I studied them for a moment, weighing their sincerity. That may be true, but that doesn't excuse what you've done. Impersonating law enforcement officials is a serious crime, and I can't just let you off the hook. We understand, Jim said, his shoulders slumping. We're prepared to face the consequences of our actions. Nodding, I turned to the deputy on duty. All right, let's get these two processed and booked. I want to make sure the charges stick. As the deputies escorted the two men out of the cell, I caught a glimpse of genuine regret in their eyes. Maybe they had finally realized the gravity of their situation. Once the paperwork was completed, I gathered them in the interrogation room. All right, listen up. I'm willing to cut you a deal, but you're going to have to work for it. Bob perked up, a glimmer of hope in his expression. A deal? What kind of deal? Well, for starters, you're both going to have to plead guilty to the charges of impersonating law enforcement officers. That's non-negotiable. Jim nodded eagerly. Absolutely, Sheriff. We'll do whatever it takes. Good, I said, leaning back in my chair. In exchange, I'm willing to give you a suspended sentence and probation, as long as you agree to put your so-called enforcement skills to good use. Bob furrowed his brow. What do you mean? I want you two to work with the community outreach program, helping to organize neighborhood events and projects. No more harassing residents, no more pretending to be authority figures. You're going to earn back the trust you've lost, one good deed at a time. The two men exchanged a surprised glance, then turned back to me. You really give us that chance? Jim asked, his voice filled with disbelief. I believe in second chances, I replied, but don't think for a second that I'm going to go easy on you. One more slip-up, and you'll be back in that cell, serving out your full sentence. Understood. Absolutely, Sheriff, Bob exclaimed, his face lighting up with relief. We won't let you down, we promise. I nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. See that you don't. Now get out of here and start making amends. The community needs your help, whether you realize it or not. As they were led away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. Maybe these two knuckleheads had finally learned their lesson. If they were serious about making a real difference, I'd be more than happy to give them that chance. But if they slipped up even once, they'd be back in that cell faster than they could blink. I was going to keep a close eye on them, just to be sure. Over the next few weeks, I kept a close eye on Bob and Jim as they carried out their court-ordered community service. At first, they seemed hesitant and unsure, but gradually, I could see a change in their attitudes. They started organizing neighborhood cleanup days, rallying residents to come together and beautify the streets. They helped coordinate block parties where families could mingle and get to know one another. And most surprisingly, they even volunteered at the local youth center, mentoring at-risk kids and teaching them the importance of respecting authority. As I watched them in action, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. These two men, who had once been a menace to the community, were now becoming an integral part of it. They were learning that true change comes not from intimidation, but from compassion and collaboration. One day, as I was making my rounds, I spotted Bob and Jim chatting animatedly with a group of residents. They were gesturing excitedly, their faces lit up with enthusiasm. Curious, I wandered over to join them. Afternoon, gentlemen, I said, catching their attention. Everything going well? Bob grinned, his eyes sparkling. Sheriff, you bet. We were just talking to the neighbors about our latest project, a community garden. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. A community garden, huh? That's a pretty ambitious undertaking. Jim nodded eagerly. We know, but the residents are really excited about it. We're going to transform that empty lot down the street into a thriving garden, where everyone can come and learn about sustainable living. And the best part, Bob chimed in. We're getting the local school involved too. The kids are going to help us plan and maintain the garden as part of their science curriculum. I couldn't help but be impressed. These two had really stepped up and embraced their new role in the community. That sounds like a wonderful idea. I'm sure the kids will love getting their hands dirty and learning about the wonders of nature. We sure hope so, Jim said, his gaze filled with determination. This is our chance to really make a difference, Sheriff. We want to show everyone that we're here to help, not cause trouble. I nodded, a genuine smile spreading across my face. Well, you're certainly on the right track. Keep up the good work, you two. I'm proud of the progress you've made. As I walked away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Bob and Jim had truly turned their lives around, and they were doing it in a way that was truly benefiting the community. Maybe a little tough love and a second chance was exactly what they needed. I made a mental note to keep an eye on their community garden project. If they could pull this off, it would be a testament to the power of redemption and the transformative impact of giving people a chance to prove themselves. Over the next few months, I watched with growing pride as Bob and Jim poured their hearts into the community garden project. They worked tirelessly, enlisting the help of local residents and schools to transform the once empty lot into a vibrant, thriving oasis. The kids from the nearby elementary school were particularly enthusiastic, eagerly digging in the soil, planting seeds, and learning of the importance of sustainable agriculture. I even stopped by a few times to lend a hand, marveling at the transformation taking place. One sunny afternoon, as I was passing by the garden, I noticed a group of people gathered around, admiring the lush greenery and overflowing vegetable beds. At the center of the crowd were Bob and Jim, beaming with pride. I approached them, a genuine smile on my face. "Looks like all your hard work has paid off, gentlemen." Bob turned to me, his eyes sparkling. "Sheriff, you have to come see this. We just harvested our first batch of tomatoes and cucumbers." Jim nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, and the kids are so excited to take some home and share them with their families. This project has really brought the whole community together." I stepped closer, examining the bountiful produce. "I can see that. You two have done an amazing job. This garden is a testament to what can be accomplished when people work together." "We couldn't have done it without your support, Sheriff," Bob said, his voice sincere. "You gave us a second chance, and we're determined not to let you down." I placed a hand on his shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. "You haven't let me down, Bob. In fact, you've exceeded my expectations. I'm proud of the work you've done to make this community a better place." Jim beamed, clearly basking in the praise. "Hear that, Bob? The sheriff's proud of us. I can't believe we used to be such troublemakers." "Well, you've certainly come a long way," I said, my gaze sweeping over the thriving garden. "And I have a feeling this is just the beginning." Just then, a group of young students came bounding over, their faces lit up with excitement. "Sheriff, Sheriff, look at all the vegetables we grew," one of them exclaimed, proudly holding up a handful of cherry tomatoes. I crouched down, giving the child a warm smile. "Wow, those look delicious. You must be very proud of your hard work." The child nodded enthusiastically. "Uh-huh. Mr. Bob and Mr. Jim taught us all about how to take care of the plants. Can we take some home to our families?" "Absolutely," I replied, glancing up at the two men. "I'm sure your families will be thrilled to try the fruits of your labor." As the children scattered, eagerly showing off their harvests, I turned to Bob and Jim, a newfound respect shining in my eyes. "You know, when I first met you two, I never would have imagined this outcome. But you've proven that people can change, and that second chances can make all the difference." Bob smiled, his gaze humble. "We couldn't have done it without you, Sheriff. You believed in us when no one else did, and that means more than you know." "Well, you've earned it," I said, clapping them both on the back. "Keep up the good work, you two. This community is lucky to have you." As I walked away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism. Bob and Jim had gone from being a nuisance to being pillars of the community, and it was all thanks to a little tough love and a willingness to give them a second chance. Sometimes, all people need is the opportunity to prove themselves, and the results can be truly remarkable. As the seasons changed and the community garden flourished, Bob and Jim's transformation continued to impress me. They had truly become champions of the neighborhood, organizing events, rallying volunteers, and fostering a sense of unity that had been sorely lacking before. One crisp autumn morning, I stopped by the garden to check on their progress. The once barren lot was now a lush oasis, bursting with vibrant produce and surrounded by a thriving perennial border. A group of children were gathered around, their faces alight with wonder as they learned of the life cycle of a butterfly. I approached Bob and Jim, who were overseeing the lesson with a sense of pride and purpose. "Looks like the garden is in full swing," I remarked, drawing their attention. Bob turned to me, a broad smile on his face. "Sheriff, what a pleasant surprise. Come take a look at what the kids have been learning." I obliged, listening intently as the children eagerly explained the process of metamorphosis, their enthusiasm infectious. When they had finished, I gave them a warm round of applause. "Excellent work, all of you. I'm impressed by how much you've learned about these incredible creatures." One of the children, a small girl with pigtails, looked up at me with shining eyes. Mr. Bob and Mr. Jim taught us everything. They say butterflies are a symbol of change, just like them. I chuckled, glancing at the two men. Is that so? Well, they certainly know a thing or two about change, don't they? Jim nodded, his expression thoughtful. You got that right, Sheriff. We've come a long way since our days of causing trouble around here. That you have, I agreed. And I have to say, I'm proud of the work you've done to make this community a better place. Bob beamed, clearly basking in the praise. It's all thanks to you, Sheriff. If you hadn't given us that second chance, who knows where we'd be right now. I placed a hand on his shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. You earned that chance, Bob. And you've proven that people can change when they're willing to put in the hard work. Just then, a group of residents approached, their faces alight with excitement. Sheriff, there you are. One of them exclaimed. We were hoping you'd stop by today. I turned to them, intrigued. What's going on? Well, you see, Bob and Jim have been working tirelessly to organize a big Halloween celebration for the whole neighborhood, the woman explained. They're calling it the Spooktacular Garden Party, and they've got all sorts of fun activities planned. I raised an eyebrow, glancing at the two men. Is that so? Jim nodded eagerly. Absolutely, Sheriff. We wanted to do something special to bring everyone together, and what better time than Halloween? Bob chimed in, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. We've got games, pumpkin carving, a costume contest, the works. And of course, the community garden will be the centerpiece of it all. I couldn't help but be impressed by their initiative. Well, that sounds like a wonderful idea. I'm sure the whole neighborhood is going to love it. The residents beamed, clearly excited about the upcoming event. We certainly hope so, one of them said. Bob and Jim have really gone above and beyond to make this happen. I turned to the two men, a warm smile on my face. I have no doubt it's going to be a huge success. You've both come a long way, and this community is lucky to have you. As the residents dispersed, chattering excitedly about the Spooktacular Garden Party, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Bob and Jim had truly transformed themselves, and they were now an integral part of the very community they had once tried to terrorize. It was a testament to the power of redemption and the importance of second chances. With a newfound determination, I knew I had to do whatever it took to ensure their success. After all, they had proven that they were worthy of the trust I had placed in them. This was their moment to shine, and I would be there to support them every step of the way. The day of the Spooktacular Garden Party dawned bright and crisp, the air filled with the scent of autumn leaves and the promise of a joyous celebration. As I made my way to the community garden, I couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. The once empty lot was now a vibrant hub of activity, with colorful decorations and costumed residents milling about. I spotted Bob and Jim, their faces lit up with pride as they greeted guests and directed the flow of the event. They had truly outdone themselves, organizing everything from pumpkin carving stations to a haunted trail winding through the garden's lush foliage. As I approached, Bob caught sight of me and waved excitedly. Sheriff, you made it. Come, there's so much to see. I chuckled, falling into step beside him. I wouldn't miss this for the world. You two have really outdone yourselves. Jim beamed, gesturing to the bustling scene around us. We wanted to make this the biggest and best Halloween celebration the neighborhood has ever seen. And judging by the turnout, I'd say we succeeded. I nodded in agreement, taking in the sea of smiling faces and lively chatter. That you have. Everyone seems to be having a wonderful time. Just then, a group of costumed children scampered by, their laughter filling the air. Look, Sheriff. Witches and ghosts and superheroes, oh my! Bob exclaimed, his eyes twinkling with delight. I couldn't help but join in his infectious enthusiasm. They all look fantastic. You've really captured the spirit of the holiday. That's not all, Jim interjected, leading me towards a particularly elaborate display. Check out the pumpkin carving contest. The creativity is off the charts. I marveled at the intricate designs, each pumpkin a work of art. Wow, these are incredible. You've really got the whole community involved, haven't you? Bob nodded proudly. Absolutely. We wanted everyone to feel like they were a part of something special. And judging by the smiles on their faces, I'd say we nailed it. Just then, a hush fell over the crowd as a familiar figure approached the makeshift stage at the center of the garden. I recognized Mrs. Peterson, one of the longtime residents, beaming as she tapped the microphone. Attention, everyone. Thank you all for coming out today to celebrate the spooktacular garden party. But before we get to the costume contest, I have a special announcement to make. The crowd murmured with curiosity, and I caught Bob and Jim exchanging a puzzled glance. Mrs. Peterson continued, her voice warm and sincere. As you all know, Bob and Jim have been the driving force behind this wonderful event, as well as the community garden itself. They've worked tirelessly to bring our neighborhood together, and for that, we owe them a debt of gratitude. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, and I could see the two men, once self-proclaimed enforcers, beaming with pride and humility. That's why, Mrs. Peterson continued, the residents of this community have decided to honor Bob and Jim with the Citizen of the Year award. Please join me in congratulating them. As the crowd erupted in thunderous applause, I watched with a sense of profound satisfaction as Bob and Jim made their way to the stage, their eyes shining with tears of joy. They had come so far, and this moment was a testament to the power of redemption and the resilience of the human spirit. I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride, knowing that I had played a small part in their remarkable transformation. These two men had proven that second chances can truly make all the difference, and I couldn't wait to see what they would accomplish next. As the thunderous applause faded, Bob and Jim stepped up to the microphone, their faces alight with a mixture of pride and humility. For a moment, they seemed to be at a loss for words, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from their community. Finally, Jim cleared his throat and began to speak, his voice trembling slightly. Wow, I don't even know what to say. When we first started causing trouble around here, I never imagined we'd end up standing on this stage, receiving an award for our contributions. Bob nodded in agreement, stepping forward to stand beside his partner. That's right. We were a couple of knuckleheads who thought we knew better than everyone else. But thanks to the sheriff here, and the patience and kindness of this amazing community, we were given a second chance to set things right. The crowd erupted in cheers, and I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride as I watched the transformation unfold before my eyes. These two men, once the scourge of the neighborhood, had become beloved pillars of the community. It hasn't been an easy road, Bob continued, but with every project we've undertaken, every event we've organized, we've learned that true change comes not from intimidation, but from compassion and collaboration. Jim nodded emphatically. Exactly. And that's what we've tried to bring to this community. A spirit of togetherness, of working together to make our little corner of the world a better place. The crowd erupted in applause once more, and I could see tears of joy in Bob and Jim's eyes as they surveyed the sea of smiling faces before them. We're honored and humbled to receive this award, Jim said, his voice thick with emotion. But the real heroes here are all of you, the residents who've welcomed us with open arms, who've pitched in and helped bring our vision to life. Bob stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. This garden, this celebration, it's not just ours. It's all of ours. Because when a community comes together, there's nothing we can't accomplish. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, and I couldn't help but join in, my heart swelling with pride. These two men had come so far, and their transformation was a testament to the power of redemption and the resilience of the human spirit. As the festivities continued, I found myself drawn into the revelry, chatting with residents and admiring the stunning pumpkin carvings. But my gaze kept returning to Bob and Jim, who were surrounded by a throng of adoring neighbors, their faces alight with joy and fulfillment. In that moment, I knew that I had made the right decision all those months ago to give these two a second chance. They had proven that with the right support and the willingness to change, even the most unlikely individuals can become pillars of their community. And for that, I couldn't be prouder. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the vibrant garden, I couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism for the future. Bob and Jim had shown that transformation is possible, and that by working together, we can build a better world, one community at a time.